I want to start this video off by sort of doing an extension of what I said yesterday. For those of you who don't know, I put up a video about 26 seconds long, and it was basically just referencing the fact that someone came up to me in Tesco's yesterday in Sunderland with a wheelchair, who I suspect had cerebral palsy. If you haven't, mate, I totally get that, and I apologise if I get that wrong. But he said he watched my videos, and he looked really genuinely happy to see me. And compared to a lot of other personalities out there, I'm just an idiot on YouTube who talks shite about football, hasn't got a clue half the time what he's talking about. But the fact that some people seem to genuinely like my content and seem to genuinely like what I'm saying, that got to me. In a good way, don't get me wrong. That got to me. It really made me feel like I was worth something. I haven't talked about this publicly on YouTube, but I've got my own mental problems. I wouldn't go as far to say extreme mental health or suicide. I'm not anywhere near that stage. But there are times when I do self-criticize myself all the time, and probably more so than a lot of people do. Even through simple little things, I don't feel like I'm worthy of anyone's attention. I don't feel like I'm, worth the hassle. I don't. It's a long story short, but basically, to see someone come up to me who has it clearly as it worse than I've got, um, and with such a smile on his face and joy to see me of all people, me, like that was just inspiring to me. Um, I only uploaded it to 26 seconds because that was all my phone would allow me to do. If it was up to me, I would have gone on for much longer talking about it. But to you, mate, if you are watching this, thank you so, so much. You have no idea, like I said yesterday, you have no idea how much that personally meant to me to see you so happy. But if you're happy, that's the main thing. If you like my content, I'm glad for that. I'm glad that many people seem to. So massive shout out to you, mate. Really, honestly, truly made my day. It made my weekend, truth be told. Thanks very much. So I wanted to start the video off. I've gone on for 2 minutes there, but I wanted to sort of express my thoughts on that. But as you know, I didn't really react to the game yesterday. I didn't react to Sunderland getting beat 2-0 by Borough in the FA Cup and getting knocked out. Now, to be honest, I don't really see the point in doing cup vlogs because, to be honest, it's a whole different ball game to the league. It's a whole different scenario that, yesterday was the least bothered I've been about a defeat. Don't get me wrong, I would still have liked to have gone and won. One of my colleagues from work, it was his first ever away game. And for him especially, more so than anyone else, I wanted to have Sunderland put up a good performance, but what can you say? Yesterday it was just flat. And I could have reacted on here, pardon me, on my computer yesterday about the game, but I just couldn't be bothered to. I just couldn't muster the energy or the desire to do so. And that's what Sunderland pretty much have done over the last few seasons for me. I've obviously become, I wouldn't say famous, but I've become well known enough that a couple of people have come up to me in Sunderland and just said, "Oh, you Michael Bowers?" Like, yeah. Like I'm still not used to that. That's still quite new to me. But through BT Sport, which I do applaud and thank you to giving me the platform to actually voice my opinions. Increasingly difficult to do without swearing, mind, but nonetheless, the point is they've given me the platform to voice my opinions on Sunderland. And obviously, last season in particular, I became quite regular on there because Sunderland were doing so shit. We were doing so bad, and Pete made the good comment when I was with him in Tesco's and Sunderland yesterday after the match, and basically saying that if Sunderland weren't so crap, I don't think I would get the views I do on videos. And in comparison to a lot of other videos, I don't get many views. I really don't. But occasionally, my highest viewed videos like 10,000. Never in a million years when I started YouTube did I expect to get anywhere near that amount. And obviously, I've only got a couple of hundred subscribers. But the fact is, in general, for videos, I get a good few. In general, on it, I regularly get a good few hundred. And that's not me bragging about it or anything, but it's the fact that people seem genuinely interested in what I have to say, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that people do that. But in terms of how it's got at Sunderland, yesterday kind of hit me just how really dire our situation is at the moment, and that's why I get pissed off and angry when I look at fans of, say, Arsenal, for example, who constantly criticise Wenger, albeit sometimes justifiably, but sometimes they go way over the top with it. Arsenal Fan TV, you look at DT, you look at Troops, you look at Robbie on there, although granted he's obviously nowhere near as bad as some of the others on there. But a lot of them complain about how tough they've got it, that they're not competing for titles. And don't get me wrong, the expectation at Arsenal is way different to expectations at Sunderland. I understand that. But I feel like in DT in particular, I will call him out for this. And it's something that he did that bothered me for a long time, actually, but I just never bothered to mention it until now. it was after Arsenal drew with Man City, I think, last year. He did a post-match cam, and some Leyton Orient fans had, in my opinion, rightly commented, saying, you have no idea how easy you've got it in comparison to every other club in England. And Sunderland, to a degree, that applies to us. We have got it easy in some level in comparison to a lot of clubs in League One, in League Two, in the Conference and below. We do have it a lot better. We have players they would love to have, and I do appreciate that to a point. So they are right to a degree. But what DT did for me was change from having an opinion to being very disrespectful. He basically said something along the lines of, get lost, Leyton Orient. I'm going to try and do this without using the F word here. Get lost, Leyton Orient. You're a shit club, shit town, shit fans, shit fan base, whatever it is. Basically meaning that Leyton Orient are irrelevant compared to Arsenal. No, they're not, mate. And the fact that you can't take the fact that they've got a point, no, I don't accept that. If I got into a room with DT, I would strongly contest how easy Arsenal have got it, actually, very strongly contest. And I understand Arsenal in comparison to, say, Man City, for example. It must be frustrating for them. But in comparison to what we've had to suffer and put up with, I would give what Arsenal's got any day of the week. Any day of the week. I've barely talked about Sunderland, have I? But it's hit me, even with Chris Coleman, who I still believe is the right person to do it. I still believe he will turn us around. But I just feel like the situation's got so dire at the moment that it's difficult to see how things are going to get better. And normally people say things will get worse before they get better. Well, I'm sorry, at a minute in the league it can't get much worse because we're bottom of the league, for Christ's sake. And and people often say that you have to support your club through the good and the bad. Now that's okay for me. That's a fair enough argument. But for me, that implies a balance there. That implies the balance of good and bad. We've mostly had about probably 0.5% good and 99.5% bad. That's not really a balance. That's very unbalanced and quite unfair. That actually, I've often voiced my opinion on Twitter. I've voiced my opinion on BT Sport, on other platforms, that I feel like Sunderland as a football club massively underachieve in the football pyramid, and I still stand by that. I believe that Sunderland have a huge fan base, and yeah, Pete, you'll have some idiots who comment on the fact you get 25,000 in a 49,000 seat stadium without really looking at the context of why Sunderland's attendances are that low. A lot of people become very disillusioned with the football club, and rightly so. You look at 5 years of constantly underachieving in the Premier League just by settling to avoid relegation. Players constantly, in my opinion, downing tools and not giving their all in the first 2/3 of the season, only to pick up a little bit just in time towards the back end of the season, stay up, and instead of trying to improve themselves and do better the next season, do the same thing all over again. And then it culminated in last season, which was one of the most pathetic attempts of staying up I've ever seen. Because for me, Sunderland's squad last year simply didn't try. Would it still, if Sunderland had given 100% every game, we may still have gone down, but I'm prepared to bet you would have been a damn sight closer than what it was. However bad people perceive our squad was last year, I don't believe it was a squad that on paper is 22 points worse than Bournemouth, that is 16 points worse than Burnley and Watford, 17, 18 points, whatever it is, worse than Swansea's, who are struggling this year like hell, mind. I don't believe it was that bad. I believe we had a lot of international players in that team. We had Jermaine Defoe, who obviously is quality in itself. Januzaj, as much as I gave him stick, is a Belgian international. You've got Jordan Pickford, who's a future England number 1. You had Kone, who was touted for 20 million. You had so many other players in there. Barini playing at AC Milan now. You've got so many different players there that should have done more, and that didn't put the fight up. And even if they didn't care about Sunderland, they didn't like David Moyes, even though I hate David Moyes now. But I imagine playing for David Moyes wouldn't have been much fun. But at the same time, are fans not worth playing for? Or heck, I'm even going to go here. Was Bradley Larry not worth playing for? Sink that in for a minute. They could very easily have put the fight and say, no, screw this, come on, let's try and get ourselves saved. For Bradley Larry, let's fight, and actually fight in every game to the bitter last tooth and nail end. And they didn't do that. I'm not going to get into a rant about last season, because that's not what this video was designed to be. But, that was what annoyed me. So it's things like that. And then you get regularly hammered at home off teams like Palace, Stoke. Stoke obviously on paper have a good side, but when we played them last season when we were 3-0 down against them, we're heavily out of form. Southampton again, heavily out of form. Norwich, Championship. Villa, Championship. QPR, obviously Championship. Hull, Championship. There's so many different teams that we've been having. 8-0 by Southampton as well. There's so many different horrendous results that we've had to put up with over the last few years. And they're at home as well. A stadium where we're supposed to get points, not teams that come here regularly enough. And then you transform into last calendar year, one home win in the whole calendar year. And obviously that was against Fulham. But if you look at... And what's frustrating is if you take out Tottenham, Liverpool, Man City and Man United, take all those teams out of it, name me one good team that came to the Stadium of Light last year. One good team. Southampton and Stoke, on paper, you could argue. But both of them were heavily out of form when they played us. So that's why the attendance is so low. And on top of that, you have David Moyes' negative demeanour. You've got what's going on behind the scenes, an owner that wants to sell the club, players that, in my opinion, clearly aren't giving a shit, clearly aren't trying hard enough. That's why fans are disillusioned. That's why the attendances are so low. But everyone just looks at the stupid little empty seats and judges their own conclusion of that. And I'm going to keep on defending this. I'm going to keep on saying this. So if you're sick and tired of me saying it, well, I suggest you stop bringing it up then. Because, Sunderland have put up a lot. I'm prepared to bet you in the top 2 divisions of English football, Sunderland fans have suffered quite a lot. I would argue Sunderland have suffered the most. Because we've had the least amount of wins, we've had so much shit going on behind the scenes. It's one bad thing constantly after another. And there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel for any of this. It just seems like shit, more shit, even more shit. Like, well, can we have some good? I think our fans deserve that. I'm trying not to get animated here. It's proven quite difficult, actually, but, it's that's a whole different argument altogether. As for the state of the club at the moment, I just feel like, put it this way, part of the reason I started doing these videos was actually through True Geordie. Now, I've just watched his video on Logan Paul. I wasn't aware of who he was until a few days ago. But obviously, I'll quickly say my thoughts on that. From what I haven't seen the video that he did, I imagine it's been taken down, rightly so, if it has been. But from what I've heard about it, yeah, disgusting. And every stick that Logan Paul gets is absolutely spot on. Because suicide is obviously an issue that, can't be ignored. It can't be just bypassed and just glossed over and, taken lightly like what he allegedly did. People's lives we're talking about here. But anyway, that's beside the point. True Jordan, that was one of the best bits. I'm not a biggest fan of content of his now, as I used to be, but it was very real to see that. And it made me realise he was the reason I started doing these videos. Now, one of the reasons at the time, it was the video where Newcastle got smashed 6-1 at Manchester City, right? And True Joy, he wasn't like ranting raving, as I've seen him do, which is quite hilarious at the best of times. It's quite funny to watch, actually. But you look at the fact that he was just so downbeat and despondent about it all. That inspired me. It was the day after Sunderland had trucked a 2-goal lead away at home to West Ham in Dick Advocaat's last game that I decided to start doing these videos because I wanted to get my thoughts across. Usually the general consensus, so Jude already got the message across that Newcastle as a club should be doing more. And he's right, they should be doing more. As much as I'm a Sunderland fan and I don't particularly like Newcastle, I do respect the fact that they should be doing more. They are a huge club. But so are Sunderland. Not quite as big as them in that sense, unfortunately, but we are nevertheless a big club. And part of the reason I started doing these videos, because everyone's at the time, 2.5 years ago, seemed to be the consensus that, we'll just accept it. Sunderland are just down there, so we'll not say anything about it. And that was me taking a stand on that and saying, no, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. The fans that we've got should be having a lot more to shout about than what they actually have been what the club have bothered to produce over the last few years. So that was my whole argument. So my message across when I do these videos, and whether it be whichever audience I watch, I've had some like 12, 13-year-olds come up to me and say they watch my videos. And if they're being genuine, great. But I want them to at least take away the message. Sunderland are underachieving as a club. They can do more. The players we've got now should be doing more. And that's the thing. There's not enough accountability at Sunderland. There almost seems to be an acceptance, not just by our fans, and that's not a dig at the fans, by the way, an acceptance by our fan base, acceptance by every other fans. Sunderland are just that club that just avoids relegation and deserve to go down because of it. Well, no. We've got one of the biggest stadium sizes in the country. We've got one of the best fan base in the country. We had 10 years recently in the Premier League. We've had high caliber players on big money, high caliber managers on big money. We've had all these people. We've attracted these people to the club. Surely, for me, we should be a hell of a lot better than just settling to avoid relegation in the Premier League. And obviously, we're not even in the Premier League, so at the minute, that is fucking great. At the minute, that feels fantastic. However, what I just think is, why should we accept it? Now even if you look at the players we've got now, I hate this argument that the players aren't good enough to do anything, right? If that's your opinion, fair enough. I'm not trying to have a dig at you for that. But in my opinion, as the squad as a whole, is it really worse than Burton Albions and Boltons and Millwalls and Barnsleys and all that? I did a rant after the Barnsley game, but I couldn't be bothered to put up YouTube because I know all those Barnsley fans will come out of their shell and just have a dig at me for it. You know what? Fine, congrats on the 6 points. But I'm just saying, we're a much bigger club. We are. And that's not having a dig at any of those clubs. We are much bigger. We're the biggest club by country distance out of all of those teams. And that's me speaking facts, not being deluded or anything. So you got to bear in mind, put this into context. Millwall and Bolton have just come up from League One. Barnsley survived last year. Burton survived last year. Birmingham's the one exception where I would say they have got a couple of players I think could be doing better than they are. But nevertheless, just survived last year. Sunderland have just come down from the Premier League. And the fact that we are struggling in the bottom end of the Championship is ridiculous. I didn't expect Sunderland to get promoted this season. I never for 1 second thought that was going to be on the cards, but I felt the damage was too done from last year. But I certainly expected a lot better than what we're having at the moment. I expected to at least be in mid-table. And at this point, we'll gladly take mid-table. But the point was, and this is the reason I keep saying, these players are more than good enough to get, have better than what we are. And I'm not the only one saying that. I'm not the only one saying that, Sunderland have the capacity to do better than what they have been bothering to do. But we have. And it's me trying to hold the club and players accountable for saying, well, no, come on, deliver more. Come on, you could be doing a bit more here. And by saying we're not, for me, by you saying we're not good enough, that's you accepting defeats to Burton. I know we didn't lose them, but you know what I mean? Defeats to Barnsley, defeats to Sheffield United. I don't accept that because I believe this squad we've got is capable of beating those sides. Yes, even Sheffield United, who are in the top 6, but, also, again, it just came up from League One. Ultimately, if Sheffield United, by the way, go up, fantastic on them. Great to see them in the Premier League. I really hope they do go up. But my point is, if they can be in the top 6 with a squad that's just come up from League One, why should Sunderland be in the bottom 3? That's my point. Like, look, we've been poorly run all over the board. But me doing these videos was a way of saying to people, no, come on, you don't just have to accept this. You can criticise the board, you can criticise the players, criticise the regime. You can criticise people and say that, this isn't good enough. We expect better. And by now, I think people are starting to vote with their feet and not go. Now, for me, unfortunately, that's the only way we can really get our message across. That's the only way that we can voice our dissatisfaction to people. That's the only way we can say at the club, no, we're not happy about this. Do something about it. You look at the fact, even how allegedly skint we're on. I know our financial situation isn't very good at the moment. But you can't tell me that we can't put, say, 10 million aside to spend on players. You can't tell me that. Languishing in the bottom end of the Championship is not where Sunderland should be. It's not even close to where Sunderland should be. We should be much higher in the football pyramid than this. But at the same time, languishing in the Championship, if you want to think of a financial perspective, yes, there's a risk you might not go up here, so bear that in mind. But my argument is, why not invest a bit of money, 15 to 20 million, into the squad, but really do your homework and get players in there, like what Newcastle got over a year ago, who are match winners in this league, who will win you games single-handedly on their own when you're struggling and competing in games. And then long-term, you get back to the Premier League, then stay in the Premier League for at least 2-3 seasons, and by that point, the debt will be wiped clear. You're not going to get any money just by languishing in the Championship, are you? It's easier said than done, obviously, but I just feel like there could be a fine balance there. And ultimately, it depends what the board want. If Ellis Short just wants to sit around and just be in the Championship for the rest of his time at Sunderland, not get any money for it, then fine, by all means, do what you want. But I'm saying that's not what Sunderland's aim should be. Our aim should be to get back to the Premier League. Now, we're obviously not going to do that this season. But I'm saying that if you're going to try long term to get back into the Premier League, you do need a little bit of investment. I believe what we've got now, if we get the injuries back, should be more than good enough to stay up. Maybe probably a goal scorer now, since I could go a whole rant about Graven, but let's just say he's a spineless prick who just wasn't up for the fight. Get lost. But what we've got now, plus a goal scorer, should be enough, in my opinion, to keep us in the division, because I don't rate any of the other teams. But long term, just staying in the Championship is not what Sunderland's aim should be. Sunderland's aim should be to get back to the Premier League. Now, if you're going to do that, and if you want to get back to the Premier League, Sunderland, well, then you have to replicate that in the transfer market. Obviously, spending money, people are right in saying spending money isn't always the answer. But languishing in the Championship and not spending anything isn't the answer either. You have to strike a fine balance there. Look, guys, I love yous and leave yous here. It was just some things I wanted to get off my chest, and it was just some things I wanted to sort of express to you guys. I went to the game yesterday. My colleague at work did have a good day. I'm betting for the game was class, but the game was shite. Got what we expected with the team we put out. I'll see you guys later, and hopefully we'll have more to cheer about by the time Cardiff comes around. See you later.